And let's bring in our Supreme Court panel. Carrie Severino, Chief Counsel and Policy Director of the Judicial Crisis Network, which backed Kavanaugh's nomination. Elizabeth Wydra, the President of the Constitutional Accountability Center, which opposed Kavanaugh. And ABC's Terry Moran, who has covered the Supreme Court for decades and decades. So Carrie, let me start with you. You fought hard for Kavanaugh's confirmation. What kind of a justice is he going to be?
I think the best way to tell that is to look at his 12 years on the D.C. Circuit. This is someone who comes in with a lot of experience, and he was known for being someone who's very diligent, gets all the details, very solid questioner, someone who's very even-handed. I think this is why you saw so many people from both sides of the aisle stepping forward and saying, look, I don't agree with his results, but I always knew that every side was going to get a really fair shake going in. I
mean, in the end, most people on the other side of the aisle came out very strongly against him. One question
true, but the people who've actually practiced before him, I'm talking about his actual reputation as a judge, I think was, one of the highest reputations on both sides of the aisle of the federal judiciary. He was very, very widely respected. I mean, this is why the Supreme Court so many times had gone to his opinions and vindicated his reasoning. He's got a singular level of recognition among the federal courts.
I've heard some conservatives uneasy with his op-ed that he wrote in the Wall Street Journal, saying essentially that he showed that he cares how he's perceived, whereas when Clarence Thomas went through what he went through, it was I am charging ahead, and he had no apologies. Do you think that this whole experience will affect how Kavanaugh will behave on the court? Will he try to do something to kind of address the concerns that so many in the country have about him?
Well, I think the number one thing he can do is, again, go back to the kind of judge he has always been, which is someone who is known for his even-handedness. He had a very controversial confirmation process the first time around. This is right in the middle of the filibuster, where they were filibustering all these judges. He was filibustered. He had to have a whole second confirmation hearing. So this isn't like, oh, he had an easy time before, and so it was easy to be bipartisan. No, he's always had that target on his back, and yet was able to go through and make sure he was putting his oath first to the Constitution, to the law. I think he'll go back and do that, and that will be the best vindication against those who are now, as Senator Rono said, trying to put an asterisk behind his name. I clerk for Justice Thomas. I think he's got no asterisk. He can stand on his own 2 feet, and I know Justice Kavanaugh will as well.
You were dead set against this nomination. Any chance he surprises you?
I hope he surprises me. Look, first of all, I practiced before Judge Kavanaugh, and, my organization, the Constitutional Accountability Center, opposed him after very carefully looking at his record, listening to his answers at the hearings. And this was just based on the substance, even before all of these sexual assault allegations came out and the incredibly moving and credible testimony of Dr. Ford. Because when you look at his record on the D.C. Circuit, he is incredibly conservative on issues that will be very important in the next coming years before the Supreme Court. Issues like reproductive rights, issues like the access to health care, especially when you're talking about women accessing contraception coverage, and as well as environmental regulations, consumer protection. And even some of his conservative colleagues have called him out for going too far and not respecting precedent in some of those opinions. So I don't know who this centrist is that Senator Collins was talking about in her speech, because if he were that centrist, President Trump wouldn't have nominated him, and I doubt we'd see all these Republicans celebrating him. And so once we see these decisions start to come down, especially if he helps fulfill President Trump's promise to overturn Roe versus Wade, we're going to see the energy that all of these protesters poured into opposing the nomination really come out even further, I think, when they start to feel the effects of the decisions of this very conservative Supreme Court.
Terry, when he was sworn in by John Roberts last night, I thought it was interesting that Elena Kagan was there, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was there. How does he kind of fit in with this board?
That was a huge statement and an important statement, because with this nomination, whether Kavanaugh likes it or not, or deserves it or not, he brings onto the court the poisonous political polarization that divides the country right now, and he's got that on the court. Some of that's unfair. It's just the circumstances. Some of it is his own doing. When he got angry, anger was understandable in that situation. But when he got angry, it's as if the mask slipped and this rabid partisan worldview came out, accusing the Democrats and liberals with millions of dollars.
We've never seen anything remotely like that in a confirmation.
No, not when Clarence Thomas got angry in a very different way. Not that everybody does it the same way. That said, his colleagues understand the Constitution put him there, right? The constitutional process put him there. They will treat him as a justice. I think they're going to look for ways to reduce the temperature around the court maybe a little bit. And I would think that the key relationship on the court right now is between Chief Justice John Roberts, who is an institutionalist, he loves that place, and Justice Elena Kagan, who has a similar view of the court. Can they find ways in the cases they take, in the way they fashion decisions to lower the temperature? The problem is there's going to be tremendous amount of pressure because conservative lawyers around the country, the candy store is open now.
Because the tradition is the new justice closes the door and there's all of this. But will Roberts steer him away from writing decisions for a while? There's been some speculation. You won't see him anywhere near writing a decision on, for instance, a sexual harassment issue that would come up.
I think John Roberts will have the court has no authority in the country except the confidence of the people, and I think that will be in his mind.
Well, traditionally, the youngest justice or the junior justice gets kind of a few easy, unanimous decisions right out the gate. So I'm sure we'll see that as well. But I think, he is a full-fledged member of the court, and they are, much to my relief, not the polarized group that we see the rest of America. As he said, there aren't aisles there. It's not one justice on one side and one justice on the other. People don't realize how much unanimity there is. About 40% of the cases every year are in fact unanimous on the court.
And a lot of the 5-4 decisions are actually not
they're not all.
We're really out of time. But I just have to ask you. We heard Hirono say, Senator Hirono, she doesn't think that Roe v. Wade will be overturned. Do you?
I think that, probably Chief Justice Roberts is a little too savvy to let the words Roe versus Wade is overturned appear in opinion. But I think the court could very easily, and I sadly expect it to, gut the meaning of the right to access abortion by chipping away, by upholding restrictions on that fundamental right. And that's only, I think for progressives, the question is, when we get the next Supreme Court battle, are they going to keep this energy? Because that will only further entrench this conservative majority.
All right, Carrie, Elizabeth, Terry, thank you for joining us.